I'm Lisa Parenteau, and I'd like to welcome you to Lifting Others as We Rise, the podcast where we dive into the world of real estate and the power of positive thinking. In each episode, we're going to bring you inspiring conversations with real estate professionals and other thought leaders who have really harnessed the power of lifting others up along their journeys. So let's get ready to elevate our mindset. Lifting Others as We Rise podcast, where inspiration is a catalyst for action. Let's go. Welcome to Lifting Others as We Rise podcast. I am your host, Lisa Parenteau, realtor, team leader, CRS, broker associate, but most importantly, Glama here on beautiful Cape Cod. We are grandparents. I'm a Glama to 2.5 granddaughters, and actually have 4 boys, so it's very exciting. Eloise Ann is 5, baby Hazel is almost 6 months old, and we have Navy Grace is going to make her debut in June of this year. But I'm thrilled to welcome you to the podcast today. I've been really looking forward to connecting with Sandra, learning more about her and learning more about her life. So get comfy, whether you are at the gym or you're just grabbing a cup of tea in the afternoon. I welcome you to listen to today's episode. My intention, as always, is to continue to discover sort of catalysts for change and inspiration in the lives of realtors across the country. And today, my very special guest is Sandra Rathe. Sandra is from the South Florida market. She's a Keller Williams agent. She's been an agent, I believe, for about 14 years and a luxury agent in the South Florida market. Of course, we were just saying, I think anyone in the South Florida market most likely considers themselves a luxury agent. I don't know many folks in that area that don't also deal with luxury property. And those of us that are in luxury, we sell all kinds of things, but we certainly, specialize in that unique client and that experience that is luxury real estate. I know that you have a team down there in Florida, but your background, you come from a finance and business background, which is really interesting and is probably an amazing asset to your clients and also to your business. And you work for Pratt Whitney. It's at some point, which my dad worked for as well, but that was in East Hartford, Connecticut, different location. So, interesting to kind of see how people's lives are in our giant web are connected. I am also interested in the fact that you had identified yourself, I believe it's your website, in talking about taking a calmer approach to real estate, which is a very welcome and amazing thought. So I'd love to hear more about that. But welcome, Sandra. I'd love to hear a couple words from you about your intro, and then we'll dive right into some conversation.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here. It's always fun to share my story and hopefully help some other people along the way.
Yeah. So as we said, you've been around been in real estate for 14 years. So tell me a little bit about kind of what that was like. You graduated from Bradley University. You were in finance, worked in that capacity. Tell me a little bit about that. And then what happened that suddenly had you one day say, I'd like to become a realtor?
So out of college, I graduated to do accounting. I was a CPA for Pricewaterhouse and ended up moving shortly after that, where I met my husband. And I was working at Caterpillar in marketing capacity and also in accounting capacity. He got transferred, so that made a move for me. I moved around a couple times because of his career. So I was following him around and trying to nurture my career at the same time. And then I started having children. I was still working, but having children, it was getting harder. I was working some remotely, which back then that wasn't a big thing, but working some remotely, some in the office. And then he got another job transfer back to Illinois, and I was pregnant with my 3rd kid. So at that point, I stopped working, and I started just doing a lot of charity work, for the local where I was living. And that was really fun. And then we got moved to South Florida. Literally, we were just moving, every couple of years. So then we ended up in South Florida, and my kids were just hitting that age where they were all going to be in school. And so like the first week they were in school, I was like, well, what do I do now? Yeah. I mean, they were my life, even while I was working, when I had the kids were the number one most important thing. And here I was all of a sudden with nobody at home, and my husband was traveling a lot. He was managing South America district. So I said, well, what can I do? And I actually did go to a headhunter to look at going back into accounting. And very quickly in that meeting, I said, I am not doing that, because it brought back the flashbacks of how many hours I was working when I was in accounting. I was in the office 12-hour days. I mean, just total commitment. And I am a little bit of a workaholic. I'm going to admit that. But on the accounting side, it was in the office. And that wasn't what I wanted for my kids. I wanted to be the one to be able to pick them up and drop them off and be at their soccer games, be at their dance things, be at their theater. So I made the decision not to go back into accounting. And as I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? I had been managing some condos that we bought in South Florida when we first moved here. And I said, you know what? I could do this for other people. So I literally got my license to do property management, which I have never done.
Oh,
And I never
really?
did. Yeah, never done it. I will never do it.
Now that you know what it really means, if you know anyone who
Exactly.
does that or vacation rentals, you will never, ever do those things.
Exactly. I did it for myself and that was enough. So it was an interesting time because I have my license and I'm interviewing with people like where do I go? Where do I hang my license? And literally everybody I was meeting with, they're like, yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, we don't even want you to do that here because we don't want the liability. So I said, well, I guess I will try selling. I will try this thing that I had no intentions of doing. And so it was kind of a mistake, I guess is what I'm saying. I got into real estate as a mistake.
So have you ever sold before?
Had I ever sold before
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I sold my own house,
Oh, but
with
I
a,
mean selling, no, as a selling, no, selling, I mean as a career. Like many people in
oh,
another
no.
career were salespeople in some way, and that so it was a natural kind of.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. But no, I was in finance and then I did a small stint in marketing when I was at Caterpillar, marketing undercarriages for heavy machinery.
Yeah, we all do. I sold fixed wireless network, those big satellites on top of roofs. I mean, sometimes we do things like what?
Right?
So interesting on a disc profile, I'm guessing that you have a lot of S and a lot of C. Is that correct? Okay.
I see.
Yeah, high D. So D and C very often go together. Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
because I think coming from that really super organized financial space, yeah, you probably wouldn't want to go into commercial real estate. That's so, I mean, it may not, I don't know. Actually, maybe sometimes some people that have a good finance background are good in commercial, but there's no guardrails. It's the Wild West. So the structure, the lack of structure there can be daunting for many folks that are high S and high C. So interesting. And I wanted to burst out laughing when you said you didn't want to, that was those long 12-hour days. I wanted to say, yeah, someone didn't tell her about real estate, but the difference is your time is your own. Your time is more your own.
Yes.
You can make decisions based on now whether how that feeds into your profession will be varied, but you still have the opportunity. I mean, back in the day, you had to do floor time and you had to sort of go into an office before a pandemic, certainly, but it's not the same as a 9 to 5 accounting position for sure. In fact, those are so different, right? The office and real estate. So when you first got here, who was a mentor that you can think of? Like who, were there some people, and it doesn't have to be in real estate, I mean, some of my mentors are Tony Robbins, Elena Brower, yoga, I mean, there are other mentors. It doesn't have to be real estate, but who served as a real inspiring mentor when you were making that dramatic shift between accounting and real estate?
Yeah, my first broker, Joanne Hostetler, she was amazing. And I hear her in my head even to this day. And it was even just the little things, like how to treat people, how to have conversations with sellers, with buyers. She was very detail oriented and very just reasonable. I think real estate, it tends to bring out a little bit of craziness sometimes. And she was just such a great grounding,
Mm.
so grounded and so giving and, just very wise. And I think that when I interviewed looking for my first brokerage, when I sat in front of her, I was like, I am home. This is where I belong. And I was like a sponge, like, teach me anything you want to teach me. I am here to listen and to learn. And I think that was really what made the beginning of my career so successful, was her mentoring and my willingness to just absorb and learn from her.
I was going to say that being teachable is so huge. So often folks come here from another career.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they mean to not be teachable, but they have been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
And so they don't really understand what a service position this is. This is a service position, right? I mean, there's lots of great benefits. It's also really challenging, but you are serving. And I don't think that everyone really got that memo when they decided to come into our profession. And I love the way you kind of talked about, because it sounds like things that would resonate with you, right? There was the organization, there was the detail orientation, things that would have really resonated with someone who came from your background. Courtesy, grace, things that probably, I can tell by just your presence, that those things are important to you. And it sounds like this person was able to embody those things for you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you hear her you hear her voice. Tell me something that one of the things that you hear her say.
I think, it's about how we treat each other. A lot of times you don't hear that. People take a position of we're adversaries, not partners in this. And we really have to look at it as we're all working together to get to the same end goal. It's not me against you as the opposite side of the transaction. It's us working together to get to the finish line. And I think if more people could remember that we're working as a team, that we would have a lot less challenges in real estate. I think she made it very clear there's no room for egos when it comes to this. What we're doing the best thing for the client, and sometimes the agent's ego can get in the way of that, and we have to really put our ego aside and realize that we have to do what's best for the client, not what makes us as the agent feel good or look good.
Yeah, absolutely. So in light of that, were there a couple of, was there a time, a stumble, a situation that you experienced, maybe observed, but really that you experienced that kind of acted as, that helped you create the resilience and determination that you have today? Most of the time, all of the time for me, any of those experiences came from something that was kind of challenging, that I had to face in myself, really, that I had to face in myself. I can't say it any other way, some piece of my own personal growth, that a challenge, an issue that came forward, but that I was able to gain some knowledge and some resilience from. Can you point to a couple things when you were first starting out, or more recently if you want?
Yeah, so I know, I remember in the beginning, so Joanne, who I was speaking about, she started a little program with a lot of the newer agents. And so we would go in once a week and she would have, this is your task for the week. Go do this task. And it would be, anything from, I want you to do a CMA and come back with what's the value. Okay, this week I want you to go find one buyer to work, and you're going to talk about it when you come back. This week you're going to go on a listing appointment. You have to find it. You have to figure out where to get it from. She gave us the tools, but we had to go and actually find it. And I just remember thinking to myself, there is no way I'm walking back in that room without accomplishing what she sent me out to do. And part of it, I think, is my personality, self-determination, but also there was no way I was going to let that woman down. She meant that much to me that I was like, I am going to succeed at this because of her, because I appreciated her so much. She poured so much into us. There was no way I was letting her down.
Wow. Does she know that she meant that she held that position for you?
I think so. I've written a lot of things that included her in it.
Wow. I mean, that's the kind of mentorship that is really transformational. When you find that you so appreciate the way someone else walks in the world and you want to honor that by, doing, I mean, if they're asking reasonable things, of course, but it sounds like you knew her intention for you was a good one and was pure. And that's really great. Have you been able to do that for other agents?
I think so. I hope so. I hope that that's how some of my agents feel.
And have you set up the same kinds of, mentorship? Do you have a formal process of that within your business model currently, or is that something that you might be looking to develop?
Yeah, interesting question. So for me, like I have agents that have been with me since the very beginning when I started. So I think that really warms my soul. That gives me that testimonial that, we're doing something right. One of my agents, my agent who sells the most, he's actually been with me for going on 11 years. He started with me when he was 21. And he was this kid in college with his backpack coming to the office, and he didn't know anything. He was brand new with me, but I saw the way he worked. We did a deal together. He wasn't on my team, but we did a deal together for his uncle, and he just worked so much like me. very detail oriented, very great customer service, incredible follow-up. So I eventually asked him to join my team, and he's been with me for 11 years, and he is just so coachable. And we have such a great relationship. We'll talk about anything and everything, not just work-wise, but personal stuff as well. And, he's 31 now. And it's just been such a great relationship, and watching him grow, I think there's no better feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So, speaking of growth and tools for growth, are there tools that you have either picked up and learned or developed along the way, both really, for professionally for work, but also as a mom and as someone who contributes to the community? I'd love to hear about other people's tools that they use for growth because I just love to continue to add things to my own toolbox.
Sure. I would say I'm an avid learner. I'm always listening to different podcasts and webinars and going to different events. I'm not one who sits in the car and listens to music. I'm usually listening to some webinar that our company sent out. Even if I know almost everything in there, if I learn one little nugget, then to me, it makes it worthwhile. So I have so many different avenues that I'm always trying to absorb from. I've also developed a group or a network, I would say, of top agents across the country at Keller Williams that we've created kind of our own tribe, if you will, that we get together, not just at the big events that KW puts on, but we've started doing some masterminding on our own. We've gone to Mexico together. We've gone to I have a place in Colorado where we had 20 people come there and we did a mastermind. So I think it's like really finding your people and it's nice because they're from across the country. So they're bringing a little bit different perspective and a different background to the same challenges that we have. So we can look at things a little bit differently. And we've developed not just a business kind of program together, but also a really strong personal relationship. They've even helped my daughter with getting interviews when she graduated from college. I mean, the relationship, it just goes way beyond any kind of business relationship that we've had.
Yeah, I just love that. Tell me something surprising that's come from that collaboration.
Something surprising.
When you first started to say, hey, let's, maybe we can put together a mastermind of some top agents and, what's something, I just loved like the serendipity of certain kinds of initiatives are really, just full of life.
Yeah. I mean, I really just think it's the personal friendship now. We're always going to have the work thing, but if we all quit today, I think we still would all get together and do things on a personal level. And it just goes so much further than selling real estate for us. It's given me the friendships that I think have been lacking in South Florida, because South Florida is it's a transient state. And to find these people that just, they get me, they get what we're going through. It really is just a special relationship that we've developed.
So that was a self-selected group. How did that group kind of coalesce?
Yeah, so we are all in what they call Gary Keller's top 100. So the top teams at Keller Williams are in a group, and inside of that group, we kind of found each other through some of the events that we were going to, and it was like an immediate click that we had to be together. We had to do events together, and it's really just blossomed.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on so many of the things that you've talked about in the podcast, from kind of that first inspiration that you met with your first broker, and then mentoring agents that have been with you for a long time, and then finding this group. And the thread for me is identifying people that you really relate to, that are your tribe. And when that happens, it brings out the best in you. And so it feels good and you feel like you're contributing. And so you want more of that and you do more of that, and that is a nice cycle of abundance to be in.
100%. I would say real estate can be a lonely island, right? If you're not with people that are understanding what you're going through or supporting you through it, real estate can be a very lonely place, I think. There's a lot of agents that they don't have a tribe. They're just going through the motions by themselves. And I think that's where you see a lot of burnout, a lot of people changing careers. But when you have that, and it's a couple different tribes, right? I've got the tribe of people that work with me. I've got the tribe of people that we mastermind together. And then those that mentor me. So I think that it's finding those people, and that really helps keep you in the game and not let the pressure, because there's a lot of pressure in this career too, and the burnout. So I think it really keeps things fresh, and it gives us an outlet to let those frustrations that we sometimes have when we have a seller who's yelling at us, or, somebody else who's having a bad day. It just gives us the opportunity to, kind of let some steam off and regroup.
Yeah, and lift each other up. I think there's something to be said for creating those safe containers. I like to call them containers. It was some yoga term years ago or something, but it's so true because, almost every deal, as we know, has something, and you go, what? I mean, I have to laugh when a bunch of agents are out together for dinner. We can just talk about deals till we get blue in the face. And our families and partners have left the table a long time before, but there's always something so interesting and so funny and so dastardly. And there's just so many different things that happen, but to be able to have some people you respect, to be able to talk through some of these curious left turns that continue to happen and get ideas about how to approach certain things or share what you did in the hopes that someone 2 weeks from now is going to face something, somewhat similar. And so finding that container where you can trust people and they're not going to go chatting about it to somebody, or, where there's a safety in that. And it sounds like you've created those communities for yourself, which is quite beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, good for you, for sure. So we're just about winding up our time together. And two quick things. One is there a quote that you have stuck up somewhere that you're currently pondering? I love to I love to hear what people are currently pondering in terms of, that's not my final question, but that is just a question that I love.
I think the thing that I tend to say a lot, which, I don't know where it came from, but I am constantly telling my agents, you need to slow down to speed up. In other words, you can't rush through things and get to the other side with everything intact. So sometimes we need to slow down, do it right in order to speed up, and next time it'll go fast.
Yeah, I just love that. And that is so true. So I will now ask you a question that I do love to ask all of my podcast guests. What is the best, most uplifting compliment you've ever received? And tell us why it was so uplifting for you.
Okay, so I'm going to say that the first time I got asked to speak at a Keller Williams family reunion event, and I'll tell you why, because it's an event that is 180,000 agents across the country are invited to. There's probably 18,000 that come to the event, and they trusted me enough to speak in front of however many of them showed up to what I was speaking on. And I think for me, that was the biggest compliment, because it said they trusted me. They believed in what I have been doing. They thought I would represent the company well. And I was able to pour into agents and help them go home and do a better job. So for me, I think that's the biggest compliment I've gotten in my career, is being able to be on that stage and help others.
How'd it go?
It was great.
Okay.
And I was scared out of my mind. I have broken through that, and I'm now like to speak at events.
You're
now.
A speaker.
Yes.
That's one of your qualifications, international or national speaker. There you go. That's fantastic. Well, congratulations. This has really been a joy to meet with you and just kind of the exact, lovely few minutes that I hope to have with agents across the country. So thank you so much again for your time today. I wish you all the very best. I'll actually be in South Florida in October. We have EXP, our big event is in Miami again this year. So maybe there'll be some way I'll text you and let you know when I'm heading down there. It'd be lovely if we could grab a cup of coffee or something together. And I really appreciate that. And I do appreciate you so much. And again, wish you all the very best with you and your team and family and everything else that this year will unfold.
Thank you, Lisa. And I hope we do see each other when you're in Miami, and enjoy those grandbabies.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on another amazing episode of Lifting Others as We Rise. I hope you make sure to follow through on today's Catalyst for Change. If you enjoyed today's insights, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You know your feedback really does matter. Stay connected for more uplifting conversations, because remember, when we lift others up, we all rise together. So until the next episode, keep the positivity flowing and keep lifting up others around you. This is Lisa Parenteau signing off from Lifting Others as We Rise. take good care. Thank you so much for joining us on another amazing episode of Lifting Others as We Rise. I hope you will calendar some time to consider and follow through some of today's catalysts for change. So today, I think the biggest catalyst for change for me in talking to today's guest, Sandra, was that it's really important to continue to identify and then expand your tribe. Sandra talked about from when she first had her first mentor, her first broker, all the way to this amazing group that she's now part of, some top producers at KW, that when you find your tribe, you're able to continue to uplift each other, and the sum of two is always greater than one, right? So when you get a group together, there's a separate identity that comes from that, and I think that was an amazing takeaway. So please consider, if you don't know where your tribe is, keep looking. Put that thought out to the universe. If you enjoyed today's insights and podcast, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback really matters. Until the next episode, keep the positivity flowing. And remember, when we make an effort to lift others up with intention, we all rise together. This is Lisa Parenteau signing off from Lifting Others as We Rise. Take good care.